Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming back. If you're a returning player for week 5 of the lockdown quiz, and if you're new to this, thanks very much for joining at this stage. It looks like we're probably going to have a few more of these, given the current state of affairs out there. I hope you've all had a reasonable week, or as good a week as can be expected. Bit of a rainy day in London today. It was a grim day today, so wasn't really feeling it at home today. I hope your day's been all right as well, but don't worry, we're all entitled to the odd down day throughout all this. But it's great to see so many of you on board already, joining in, saying good evening. Thanks very much for coming along. I'll just run through the rules and regulations. If you are a new player, I think we've probably settled on a core audience in this so far. It's got a nice little following, so there probably aren't any new players, but if there are, it's 10 rounds of 5 questions per round, 50 questions in all. 1 question in every quiz will be about Steve Bull, the greatest centre forward the world has ever seen. I will give the answers every 2 rounds, and you are playing either as a group together on Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever medium you're using. You're either playing against each other, you're joining up to play, or you're playing on your own at home, and you are playing against the Heroes of Waterloo, which is my Sunday League team, who I played this quiz with a week earlier, and you're playing against their scores. So I'll give you last week's scores, because it was a really exciting quiz last week, even if I do say so myself. We had an incredibly close affair amongst the 8 players who played it last week. When going into the final round, we had every single player in with a shout of winning the quiz, and 6 of the 8 players were locked on the same amount of points. 6 of the 8 players were locked on the same amount of points, and it was eventually won by Tomo. Tomo got 27 out of 50, so a relatively low scoring quiz last week. Don't worry if you're on a low score. It's a relatively low scoring quiz last week. Tomo, a big Norwich City fan, very good footballer as well, a free scoring midfielder, scores good goals, does Tomo. And he took time out to play last week because it's busy in the Tomo household. He's got a newborn child, so he's a new dad as well, but he found time to play the quiz, and he won a really tense thriller last week that had me giddy with excitement. So hopefully it'll be just as tight this week here. Good to see so many of you already on the message board. Including Chunda, our resident NHS worker, helping out in the current crisis. Big Bristol Rovers fan. Great to see him here already. So many more of you as well. There's a couple of people who can't play live tonight who are going to play on catch up that I've got to give a shout out to. Dave Watt, a big Wolves fan. The internet's gone down in Telford, so I'm hemorrhaging viewers in Telford this evening because there's no internet. So big shout out to Watty, who'll play on catch up. And also to Warren Ashurst, who scores well in this quiz. Jack Ashurst's son, the former Leeds United player, he can't play live, so big shout out to Warren, who's going to play and catch up. But great to see so many of you already on board. So let's crack on with the quiz, 10 rounds, and we'll do the first round now. Telford has only just got phones, says Steve Phillips, who probably won't be welcome in that part of the world anytime soon. Is the internet ever up in Telford, says Stuart Silvers. Well, Telford coming in for an early hammering on the quiz. Let's hope they can turn it round quickly. So round number 1 is 2 club cities. And question number 1, who did Dion Dublin headbutt in the second city derby back in 2003? So who did Dion Dublin headbutt in the second city derby in 2003? If you're playing as a group and you're messaging in with your scores, do tell me that you're in a group, because there's lots of players playing singly, and obviously your scores are going to be better, so we don't want to demoralize the single players, because a few of you have got together on groups. So do let me know if your scores are a collective, a consortium. Do let me know. No problem with that. No problem with consortiums. Unless you're from Saudi Arabia, and then obviously probably best not to try and buy a football club in the UK. Question number 2, John Ward managed both clubs. In which city John Ward managed both clubs in which city? It was in the 1990s. If that's any help, I suppose it's one of those you either know or you don't really. One of those you either know or you don't. Question number, we've got Stu Mack on the message board who seems to be answering the questions live. That's not the idea, Stu. If you can keep your answers, you've gone 2 guesses with questions 1, but just hold back on the answers and we'll give them after 2 rounds, and then you'll know where you're at. We'll know where we're at. So hold back on your answers and you'll get them in due course. Question number 3. Who is the only player to win the FA Cup with Everton and Liverpool? Who is the only player to win the FA Cup with Everton and Liverpool? Question number 3. Everton and Liverpool won the FA Cup a lot for quite a while, and one player did it with both of them. Question number 4. The Boxing Day Massacre refers to a rout in which city's derby? The Boxing Day Massacre refers to a rout in which city's derby? And question number 5. Who was the Aston Villa goalkeeper who tried to control a throw-in but let it under his foot for a goal against Birmingham City back in 2002? Very famous goal. I think it was a night game as well, which certainly upset the Birmingham constabulary. And the Aston Villa goalkeeper who let that goal underneath his foot from a throw-in from one of his defenders to give Birmingham a goal in that game. So that's the 2 club cities round, and that's round number 1, 2 club cities. And round number 2 is managerial departures. Round number 2 is managerial departures. And question number 1. Who was the most recent Premier League manager to be sacked? Who was the last Premier League manager to get the sack this season? Question number 2. Who was sacked by Southampton after gaining 2 successive promotions? And he was sacked halfway through his first season in the Premier League. So a manager who took Southampton up 2 divisions to the Premier League, and then halfway through that Premier League season, he was sacked. Question number 3. Graham Taylor resigned as England manager after his team played San Marino in 1993. What was the score in that game? It was the last group game of the World Cup qualifiers in 1993. England away at San Marino. Graham Taylor resigned after the game. What was the score in the game? There's some great Gary Bull chat on the message board already. Message board does take some interesting twists and turns over the course of the night. Did he play at youth level for Everton? He was Steve Bull's cousin. Did he play at youth level for Everton? Right, back to managerial departures in round number 4. How many games did Frank de Boer last at Crystal Palace? It's a multiple choice this. You've got 4 options. How many games did Frank de Boer last as Crystal Palace manager? It was back in 2017, so not too long ago. Was it 4, 6, 8, or 10? Was it 4, 6, 8, or 10? And question number 5, the last question of the managerial departures round. Alan Kirbishley managed Charlton for 15 years between 1991 and 2006. But who was he joint manager with for the first 4 of those years? He was actually joint managers of Charlton for the first 4 years, from 91 to 95, and then one of the joint managers left. Curbs went at it alone. Who was that joint manager with Curbs at Charlton? If you miss any of the questions, just give me a shout and I'll read them out again. So that's the first 2 rounds. We're going to have a drinks break after round 4, a quick drinks break to top up your drinks. And after round 6, there's a slightly longer toilet break where you can either go to the toilet or stay here and have a chat. We had a great chat last week about moments you've missed at football matches by either nipping out to the toilet, failing to get into the game, or leaving early, getting in late. Meandered its way onto Jeremy Beadle having a box at the clock end at Arsenal. So the toilet break after round 6, you can get involved with any sort of chat you'd like. But I think the theme at the moment is missing big moments at matches. I think one participant last week had a mate who fell asleep during Liverpool's 2005 Champions League final, second half. What a time to have a nap. Right, let's move. So let's go through the answers rather. Go through the answers of those first 2 rounds. Right, Dion Dublin headbutted Robbie Savage. John Ward managed both clubs in Bristol. The only player to win the FA Cup with Everton and Liverpool is Gary Ablett. Gary Ablett. The Boxing Day massacre refers to a Sheffield Wednesday rout over Sheffield United. So that's a Sheffield is the answer to that. 4-0 in 1979. Sheffield Wednesday beat their arch rivals on Boxing Day. What a game that must have been if you're a Wednesday fan. And question number 5, the goalkeeper, the unfortunate goalkeeper was Peter Enkelman. And then let's give you the answers for round 2. The last manager to be sacked in the Premier League was Manuel Pellegrini. The Southampton manager who got 2 promotions and was then sacked halfway through his Premier League debut season was Nigel Adkins. He was replaced by Maurizio Pochettino, though, so probably a wise move, but harsh on Nigel Adkins nonetheless. The score of the England-San Marino game was 7-1 to England, obviously, so 1-7 technically. Someone's asked if they get Robert Enkelman. Enkelman, I'll give you that. Yeah, we're looking to give points away for this. If you just got Enkelman, that's fine. Frank de Boer lasted just 4 games as Crystal Palace manager back in 2017. And the last question of the night, the co-manager with Alan Kirbishley at Charlton was, sorry, the last question of the round, the co-manager at Charlton was Steve Gritt. So pile in with your scores. Let me know how you're getting on. The leader for the Heroes of Waterloo after 2 rounds last week was Chris Ivey. He was playing actually as a 2. He was playing with his son. 10 points. Oh, sorry, no, I've read that completely wrong. 7 points. So Chris Ivey and his son had 7 points. And bringing up the rear was Mark Flanagan on 2 points. Big Leeds fan and a class act on the football pitch. Mark Flanagan had 2 points last week. Great scores coming in already. The 2 Pauls, Keith and Berry on 8 points. Steve Saul on 8 points, a big quizzer himself. Stuart Silver's 8 points. Big Sheffield Wednesday fan is Stuart, so I'd like to think he got the Boxing Day Massacre question right. Adrian Sanders, great to have Aid on board tonight. Another Wolves fan, 7 out of 10. Matthew Moore, 7 out of 10 with a team of 3. Mike Pinkham says 5 out of 10 mediocre. Not at all, Mike. If you got 2 or more, you're doing fine. Marcus Hawkins has got 2. That's fine, Marcus. Great to have you with us. You're on the same as Flan. Rob Goodcliffe with a team of 3 on 6 out of 10. Good scoring. Rob Harris, a full house for Boris's boys. And Chris Johnson, the Daydream Believers Collective, big Barnsley fans, 6 out of 10, although they got all 5 in the first round. And Jason Darby, who is, of course, the famous Chunder, big Bristol Rovers fan who works for the NHS on a night off tonight. Dave Tandy, 2 out of 10, big Swindon fan. And Mark and Chris, Wolves fans from the London Wolves Club, who play this, which is great to see them on 4 out of 10. Dave Marland, 4 out of 10 too. So that's good stuff. Let's go on to round number 3 then. Round number 3 is called Uniteds. Round number 3 is called Uniteds. There are only 2 clubs in Scotland's 4 divisions called United. There are only 2 clubs in Scotland's 4 divisions called United. Dundee United is one of them. Who is the other? Who is Scotland's other United? It's not Dundee. Question number 2. Where do Rotherham United play? Where do Rotherham United play? Question number 3. Who did Alex Ferguson take over from at Manchester United back in 1986? Who did Alex Ferguson take over from at Manchester United back in 1986? Richie Gillam asks about the Sunderland Bradford attendance beating the Sheffield Boxing Day Massacre attendance. That was for a Division 3 game. I think you're quite right. Sunderland Bradford last year, I think, got a bigger crowd. Although that was part of the documentary, the Sunderland documentary, Sunderland Till I Die. And if you watch that documentary, they found a very interesting way of working out that attendance figure. I think it's very disputable. Anyway, question number 4 of the United questions. Joey Beauchamp was signed by one United for another United, or by another United, for a club record back in 1994. Joey Beauchamp, now his nickname was Joey Homesick because he left one United to join another United, and the move was a disaster. It was a club record deal at the time in 1994, and he quickly moved back and left the United he signed for. Give me any of the Uniteds in that transfer. Joey Beauchamp or Beauchamp. I think it's Beauchamp. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll be honest with you. And question number 5 of the United's round. Who did Kevin Keegan replace in his first spell as manager of Newcastle United back in 1992? Who did Kevin Keegan replace as Newcastle manager back in 1992? There's a clue for this. It was a foreign manager, so it was a foreigner. So who did Kevin Keegan replace? So that's the not Jim Smith then, says Paul Berry. Quite right. I think a lot of people would have, I'd have gone for Paul Berry if I was doing I'd have gone for Jim Smith if I was doing the quiz. Definitely. I'd have thought that. It was only when I looked it up that I saw who it was. So it's not Jim Smith. It's a foreign manager that Kevin Keegan replaced. Right. Round number 4 is train stations. Round number 4 is train stations. So this will suit travelling fans this round. And I know lots of you playing today are travelling fans, particularly the London Wolves Supporters Club, who probably use the rail network as much or more than any other supporters club in the UK. Right, round number 4, train stations. Question number 1. If you get off at the train station in between Dewsbury and Garforth, which championship club are you going to watch? Question number 1. If you get off at the train station between Dewsbury and Garforth, which championship club are you going to watch? Russ Taylor asks, he asked a few moments ago, has he missed the train station round? You've not missed it, Russ. We're right in the middle of it. And he confirms his name is Beauchamp, Joey Beauchamp in the last round. I wouldn't have known that for sure. So thanks for that, Russ. Good man. Big Lincoln City fan is Russ Taylor. And he gets to cover them on Soccer Saturday from time to time as well too. Top Soccer Saturday boy, Russ Taylor. Hopefully you'll be able to see him on your screens again soon when this all ends. Right, question number 2 of the train stations round. Folkestone Railway Station. Folkestone Railway Station is the nearest stop for which Premier League club? Folkestone Railway Station is the nearest stop for which Premier League club? Question number 3. If you get off at Rock Ferry, which Northwest football team are you going to watch? If you get off at Rock Ferry, which Northwest football team are you going to watch? John Ryan asks, is this the right site to sell my car? If you leave the details in a short, succinct message, John, I'll read them out, but it's not the right site to sell cars, no. Question 3, if you get off at Rock Ferry train station, who are you going to watch in the Northwest? Question number 4, Whitton is the stop for which Midlands club? Whitton is the stop for which Midlands club? And question number 5, which London club are you going to watch if you get off at Thornton Heath? Which London club are you going to watch if you get off at Thornton Heath? It's not technically the nearest station, but if I gave you the nearest station, it would be a giveaway. But it's close enough. You could get off and enjoy a 15 to 20-minute stroll from Thornton Heath to this ground. So that'll be all the answers to round. Sorry, all the questions to round number 4. We'll go through the answers for 3 and 4, and then you can top up your drinks. You're a brave man if you get off at Rock Ferry, says Andy Adamson. Yeah. There are nicer areas of the UK. I think there are a lot worse though as well. So wouldn't want to do Rock Ferry down. John Ryan has given up selling his car and wants to know what question number 2 was. And that was Folkestone Railway Station is the nearest stop for which Premier League club? So Folkestone Railway Station is the nearest stop for which Premier League club? So if you're all happy, we'll do some answers in a sec. Just give you a few more moments and we'll do some answers for rounds 3 and 4. Question 4, Graham Elliott asks, and that is Whitton. Whitton is the stop for which Midlands club? Whitton actually is a really good walk, not in sense of scenery or anything like that, just very, very handy. It's like 2 minutes from Whitton station to the club you're going to. Very good. Paul Keith, you would get a cheap car in Rock Ferry. That's probably true, and a good link to the car dealing issues we had a few moments ago. Right, let's give you the answers. So round number 3, managerial departures. Who was the most recent Premier League manager to be sacked? It was Manuel Pellegrini at Southampton. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong round. It's United's. Round number 3 is United's. So question number 1, the 2 Uniteds in Scotland, Dundee United, obviously, and Ayr United. Ayr United is the club you're looking for there, Ayr United. Rotherham play at the New York Stadium. Question number 3, Alex Ferguson took over from Ron Atkinson at Manchester United in 1986. Paul Berry wants to know what's in the glass. It's Malbec. I'm still getting through that. I got a crate of the stuff before lockdown from Majestics. I'm still seeing off the back of that. Neil McDonough says not Millmore for Rotherham. No, not Millmore. They left Millmore and they now play at the New York Stadium. Question number 4. I'll take either Oxford or West Ham United. That was Joey Beecham's disastrous move. And question number 5. Kevin Keegan replaced Ozzy Ardiles. Kevin Keegan replaced Ozzy Ardiles. Steve Phillips says other wine merchants are available. They are, but if anyone employed by Majestics is playing tonight, I'm more than happy to say the word Majestics as regularly as you want if you can furnish me with Malbec. Right, so that's the United's round. And the train stations round, if you got off between Dewsbury and Garforth, you'd be watching Leeds United. Leeds is the train station between Dewsbury and Garforth. Folkestone Railway Station is the nearest stop for Bournemouth. Folkestone Railway Station nearest for Bournemouth. If you get off at Rock Ferry, you're going to watch Tranmere Rovers. Rock Ferry. Ferry was possibly a clue there. On the Mersey, Tranmere Rovers, a substantial walk from the Mersey, but not a million miles away. Witton is the stop for Aston Villa. Witton is the stop for Aston Villa. And Crystal Palace play near Thornton Heath. So Crystal Palace was answer number 5. So we can have a drinks break there, but do message in with your scores so far. And the Heroes of Waterloo score you're looking to better at this stage. We had Bobby, the Newcastle fan, and Chris Ivy, Bobby, Tomo, and AK were all on 12, but Chris Ivy was it. I'm all over the place here. Bobby and Chris Ivy on 12 points after 4 rounds. Bobby and Chris Ivy on 12 points after 4 rounds. They led the way. And bringing up the rear, we had last week Flan on 7. So between 7 and 12. And loads of you are scoring really well. Matt Dobson, 15 out of 20. Brilliant. Stuart Silvers is flying on 17 out of 20. Are you playing on your own, Stu, or is there a conglomerate there? Do tell me. Rob Goodcliffe's team of 3 with 12 out of 20. Brilliant. Graham Elliott, 5 with a team. Good honesty from you there, Graham. Caroline Smith, 9 out of 20. Decent. Robin Cutler, 13 with a team of 5. West Ham Blog, 18 for Maggie and the Miners. You can't be Maggie and the Miners. You're one or the other, surely. And I'd like to think you were the Miners. Right. 14 out of 20 for Jason Darby. Chunder's in the house and he's flying tonight, as he points out. Quite right. Neil Smith with 15. Big Brentford fan is Neil. Must be looking forward to moving into the new stadium next season. Rob Harris with 18 out of 20 for Boris's boys. And Dan Owen, 5 out of 20. Sorry, he says. Do not be sorry, Dan. I'm just delighted you're playing. It's great that you're playing. So it's great fun. Ian Mills is getting caned as a captain in this. Ian Mills, a big Watford fan. 14 out of 20, though, is a great score. So I'm backing Ian so far. Russ Taylor says Porter 6 is a fine red wine from Majestic. $7.99 on a mixed case. The Porter 6 reserve is best, though. And he got 8 out of 10 in the last 2 rounds. So great advice on red wine from Russ, which is appreciated. This is your chance to top up, by the way. And we'll kick on with round number 5 shortly. Got to give a shout out for Jimmy Adamson watching tonight. It was Jimmy's 75th at the weekend. Massive Evertonian, living in Bromborough. Big shout out to Jimmy Adamson. Thanks for watching, Jimmy. Any free beer going, says Marcus Hawkins. Come on, Marcus, you're better than that. Unless someone in the brewing industry wants to get involved and offer free beer, I'll happily name check you all night long. Right, let's get on. Let's move on. So we've done the first 4 rounds. Let's get on with round number 5. Round number 5, probably be a lot of size at this round. Mark Hughes is round number 5. Mark Hughes. Question number 1. Mark Hughes scored his last Premier League goal at the age of 40. Who for? Who did Mark Hughes score his last Premier League goal for? Question number 2. How many Football League clubs, or Premier League, Football League, you know what I mean? How many professional clubs in England has Mark Hughes managed? So that's not including Wales. He has managed Wales. We're after football clubs, club sides rather. Question number 3. Name either of the 2 overseas clubs he's played for. If you get them both, brilliant, but there are no extra points on offer. But if you get them both, fair play. I'll take just one. Paul Berry says, I still remember Mark Hughes taking various swipes at water bottles at Molineux when the Fulham manager. My, how we laughed. I'm taking it. I'm getting. He must have missed when he was swiping at those water bottles. Question number 4. In 72 appearances for Wales, this is multiple choice this. So in 72 appearances for Wales, did he score 6, 16, 26, or 36 goals? So in 72 games, did he score 6, 16, 26, or 36 goals? Stu Mack says he tries to forget Hughes. I wonder which club side he would have managed then. Don't tell me, Stu, because you might give one of the clubs away. Question 3 again, says Mike Pinkham. So can you name either of the 2 overseas clubs that Mark Hughes played for? He played for 2 overseas clubs. Just name me one of them and you get a point. And question number 5. As Stoke City manager, he led the club to 3 consecutive best placed finishes in the Premier League between 2013 and 16. So Stoke's best ever finish in the Premier League era. And they finished the same place 3 seasons running. What was that place? Now, deliberated was saying if you get within 1 place, but there are only 20 places in the Premier League, and they obviously weren't top 6. So I think you've got to get it right. I think you've got to get this one right. So he led Stoke City to 3 consecutive best place finishes. What were those finishes? Right. Let's move on to round number 6 before the toilet break. Round number 6 is Euro 88. And there's going to be lots of size from our younger players. I'm sorry about this, but you should know your football history. So there will be something here for you. But if you're one of our younger players, I do apologise for this round, but there's something for everyone. So don't give up just yet. Plenty in it. This is Euro 88. Question number 1. How many teams competed at Euro 88? How many teams competed at Euro 88? And this is a multiple choice question. You have 4 options. Was it 8, 12, 16, or 20? Was it 8, 12, 16, or 20? Question number 2. How many points did England get in their group at Euro 88? And it was in the days, old money days, of 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and still no points for a defeat. How many points did England get in their group at Euro 88? Question number three. Who scored Ireland's goal in their historic 1-0 win over England in those group stages? Jack Charlton's Ireland, qualifying for their first major tournament, had an amazing 1-0 win over England. Who scored for them? Question number 4. Can you name the 2 scorers in the final? It was Holland against the Soviet Union. Holland beat the Soviet Union 2-0. Can you name me both scorers in the final? And question number 5. The Soviet Union goalkeeper also played in 3 World Cups. He won 91 caps. He was the second most capped player ever for the Soviet Union. They nicknamed him the Iron Curtain. He was an unbelievable keeper. You couldn't get past him. And in 1988, he was voted the world's greatest goalkeeper. Incredible player, the Soviet Union goalkeeper. Who was he? Can you name him? I'll take just the surname. Can you name me that Soviet Union goalkeeper? Nathan Harvey says this round has done me over. Nate, don't worry. It's the nature of the quiz. There are rounds that just kill players. In the heroes, the lads I play with, some are in their 40s, some are in their 20s, and certain rounds do kill you. So don't worry, Nate. There's no harm in getting no points in a certain round. Things you just don't know. Look at it as a history lesson or something like that. So that's round number 6. Give you a few moments, and then we'll do the scores, and then we'll have a toilet break. So let's go through the scores then. The Mark Hughes round number 5. He scored his last Premier League goal at the age of 40 for Blackburn Rovers. He has managed 6 Premier League clubs. He played for Barcelona and Bayern Munich overseas. If you got one of those, you get a point. He scored 16 international goals. And he took Stoke to 9th place in the Premier League 3 seasons running. Now the Euro 88 round, which might see a few fallers. There were only 8 teams at Euro 88, 2 groups of 4, 8 teams at Euro 88. England got no points in their group. They lost every game. Ray Houghton scored the Ireland goal. The Dutch goal scorers in the final were Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten. And the legendary Soviet keeper was Rinat Desaev. Richard Hughes says Euro 88 was a great tourney. He was an idle 17-year-old. So there you go. He was an idle 17-year-old. Joe Parker wants the answers for the Mark Hughes round again. So the Mark Hughes answers. Number 1, Blackburn Rovers. Number 2, 6 clubs. Number 3, Barcelona or Bayern Munich. Number 4, 16 goals. And number 5, 9th place. So the heroes of Waterloo, after 6 rounds, the lads I played with, the leading scorer had 18 points. Chris Ivey had 18 points and 14 points at the other end of the scale. And already there's loads of scores coming in that are way better than that or around that. Stewie Silver's on 24 out of 30. Brilliant. Mark Townsend, 19. You'd be winning again, Mark. Great stuff. Rob Goodcliffe, 18 with his team of 3. Marcus Hawkins says a point each for Gullit and Marco van Basten. No, there's only ever 1 point available for any question. 50 questions, 50 points. So if you gave me, oh, sorry, sorry, Marcus, yeah, you get 1 point for Hullet and Van Basten. You can't have Hullet or Van Basten. You have to get Hullet and Van Basten. Sorry, Marcus. Dan Owen, 10 out of 30, good stuff. Tom Dell with team. Baz, Glenn, Skip, Odd and Honk, 18 out of 30. Adrian Sanders, 18 out of 30. He'd be leading the way for the Heroes. Robin Cutler, 23 points. Brilliant stuff. That's great scoring. So this is the toilet break. Do send in any stories of you missing key moments of football matches, if you've got any, or stories of people you've met at toilets at football grounds, whatever. We're going to take a couple of minutes now while people nip to the loo. John Wyan says, if you put Ruud van Basten, do you get a point? Let me know how many points you've got already, and I'll make a decision on that, John. If you've got, John, if you've got 16 points or less, and you put Ruud van Basten, you can have another point. Robin Cutler with a team of 5. He just wants to clarify that with his 23 points. That'll put a lot of people playing on their own at ease there. So Robin Cutler with his 23 points is playing as a team of 5. Marcus, 6 out of 30 with a sad face. Marcus, don't be sad. I'm just really pleased to have you along. It's all about taking part in this quiz. We are all winners here. Crawford Miles, dads and lads, 18. Crawford and his son Scott, big Evertonians. Mike Pinkham, 15 out of 30. He says mediocrity. I disagree. I said that's very good. David and Karis Owen say shout out to Gabby, who's aged 8 and is a first-time quizzer. Big shout out to you, Gabby. What an age range we've got in this quiz. We've got people in their 70s playing this. Rob Goodcliffe's dad is 77. Jimmy Adamson playing tonight. Celebrated his 75th birthday at the weekend. And there's Gabby Owen at the age of 8. Richard Gillam says he left the Everton versus Luton semi-final in 1985 at 1-0 down. Everton were terrible and he missed the equaliser. I'm sure we had that story last week, but thanks for getting the ball rolling. There's not many stories on missing moments in football matches, are there, this week? We'll have to change the toilet interval topic for next week. Chris Johnson says the Dutch Euro final scorer wasn't the Steve Bull question. He's quite right. Remember, there is a Steve Bull question coming up. Do you know what? Russ Taylor is bang on the money here with his Soviet goalkeepers. Obviously, Rinat Dusayev, second best behind Lev Yassin, but he's also thrown in Vasily Rats into the mix. God, I've forgotten about Vasily Rats. That was a great name. Now, did he succeed Rinat Dusayev? So Rats came in after, did he? I thought he might have been before. But no, you'll know better than me. Russ Taylor with Ukrainian heritage, so he'll know way better than me. J to the T, good evening. I'm a very late joiner, so I'm on 2 out of 30. Can you confirm if I can still catch Banzai? Of course you can. Mark Townsend, ticking 2 boxes. I saw Mark Hughes make his debut in a pre-season game at the Nou Camp in a 2-match tournament with Spurs and PSV and one other. And he went to the toilet and he missed the only goal. Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. You've saved me on the toilet chat there. Chris Johnson says, what a kit that CCCP one was. It was a brilliant kit. Paul Berry suggests that Russ Taylor might want to go on mastermind with Russian goalkeepers as his specialized subject. Steve Phillips points out that Rats and Bats were rhyming goalkeepers. Joel Bats, of course, played for France in the 1986 World Cup. Don't mention the Bats, Steve, says Paul Berry. Joel Bats. Did he let a sitter in the 1986 World Cup? I'm sure France had a brilliant game against Brazil. Well, I know they did it. France-Brazil in the 1986 World Cup was such an underrated game. And then they went out with a real like a sort of a wet fart in the semi-final to Germany, and they lost 2-0. What a World Cup that was as well. Rats wasn't a goalkeeper, says Jack. So Vasily Rats wasn't a goalkeeper. Oh, so that's Russ. So has Russ claimed that Vasily Rats was a goalkeeper, and it turns out he wasn't? Rats was Ukrainian. Was he a goalkeeper though, Russ? Can you clarify, Russ? Was Vasily Rats a goalkeeper? Bats was though. Joel Bats was a goalkeeper. Curly hair. We're going to crack on with rounds 7 and 8 shortly. Richard Gillam says Yashin was the first goalkeeper to wear all black, and he was man of the match at the World Cup semi-final at Goodison Park in 1966. Quite a few of our players tonight, I think, went to watch the World Cup at Goodison in 66. Stuart Silvers points out that most of the Soviet Union team in 1986 were Ukrainian. Stewie knows his football, and Paul Buxton confirms that Vasily Rats was in midfield. So that so Russ Taylor's mastermind era will have to spread out from goal to the whole of the Soviet bloc, 1 to 11. Right, shall we crack on? Nev Yashin, says Crawford Miles. Neville Southall, of course, great goalkeeper. Right, shall we crack on and get on to round number 7? Let's do round number 7. Round number 7 is questions inspired by Half Man Half Biscuit songs. Now, do not worry, do not panic. You don't have to know anything about Half Man Half Biscuit, the superb Birkenhead indie band. These are just questions that have been inspired by their songs. So, question number 1, the Half Man Half Biscuit song, Swerving the Checker Trade. Swerving the Checker Trade is about avoiding EFL trophy fixtures. Now, the EFL trophy is the lower division tournament for leagues 3 and 4 and under 21 teams. There's a great lyric which is, "Oh, let me gaze upon your curves instead of Ipswich Town reserves." So swerving the checker trade, it's about avoiding EFL trophy fixtures, but last season's final of the tournament attracted a record 85,000 crowd, which were the two teams that took place in last season's EFL trophy final. 85,000 turned up to see two teams from the lower divisions of English football. Do you know what? I love this song, so I'll sing a little bit for you as well. I might give you a little helping hand. Oh, let me gaze upon your curves instead of Ipswich Town reserves, swerving the checkered trade with you, swerving the checkered trade with you. There you go. Great Half Man Half Biscuit song. That'll be the only singing tonight. Paul Berry, not a fan of my singing. Who is? Question number 2. In the referee's alphabet, the lyric T is for 21-man brawl refers to the most famous 21-man brawl ever, and it took place when Manchester United lost at home to Arsenal in October 1990. Both teams, it was such a bad brawl that both teams were deducted points, but Arsenal still went on to win the league. Who was the Arsenal goalkeeper that day, who was the only player who did not take part in the brawl? It was a 21-man brawl. The Arsenal goalkeeper did not partake. Who was he? Question number 3. The song Dickie Davis Eyes contains the lyric, Brian Moore's head looks uncannily like the London Planetarium. Brian Moore's head looks uncannily like the London Planetarium, in reference to the ITV commentator of the day, Brian Moore. At the 1998 World Cup, Brian Moore, during the England-Argentina shootout, famously asked which pundit if David Batty would score the decisive kick. Which pundit did Brian Moore turn to and say, will he score? And the pundit went, yes, and Batty missed. And they all went, oh no. Who was that pundit? Stuart Silvers. What year for the brawl? It was 1990. Right, question number 4. And Stuart Silvers also points out that that's the name of the Gillingham fanzine. He's quite right. The Gillingham fanzine is called Brian Moore's Head Looks Uncannily Like the London Planetarium. And there is a fanzine round coming up soon, Stu, but that fanzine is not in it. Both teams for the full point, says Marcus, for the EFL trophy. Yeah, it has to be both teams. I mean, there's not many teams down in the lower leagues that are attracting 85,000 attendance, so you can work that out. Question number 4, Alehouse Futsal. Alehouse Futsal is a song which refers to the five-a-side indoor version of football known as futsal. It began in 1930 in which South American country? Which South American country does futsal originate from? Russ Taylor is apologising left, right, and centre for his Vasily Rats error. Don't apologise, Russ. You've opened up a lovely can of worms here with Vasily Rats. You've not disgraced yourself at all. And question number 5. Half Man Half Biscuit are, of course, big Tranmere Rovers fans. Who is Tranmere Rovers' current manager? And he shares his name with a type of fruit. Who is the Tranmere Rovers manager who shares his name with a type of fruit? I'll accept either the fruit or the manager. Richard Hughes gives me a Heroes Waterloo fact. Brian Moore was Chris Ivy's next door neighbour. That's incredible. Chris Ivy used to play for the Heroes of Waterloo a while ago, maybe 15 years ago. And Brian Moore was once his next door neighbour. Thanks for that, Rich. It's up for grabs now. I wonder if Chris Ivy ever said that to Brian Moore when he was handing over his mail. Right. Round number 8. Round number 8 is chairman and owners. Chairman and owners. And question number 1, so multiple choice. Who is the longest serving Premier League chairman? And your 4 options are the longest serving Premier League chairman. Is it Daniel Levy or Levy, Roman Abramovich, Tony Bloom, or Mike Ashley? So is it Levy, Abramovich, Bloom, or Ashley as the longest serving Premier League chairman? Question number 2. Arsenal's Stan Kroenke owns which American football team? Stan Kroenke owns which American football team? Question number 3. Doug Ellis was Aston Villa chairman in 2 spells, but for how many years did those 2 spells total? It's another multiple choice. Was it 16, 21, 26, or 31? 16, 21, 26, or 31? Doug Ellis, chairman of Aston Villa for a long, long time, over 2 spells. How long? No. Question number 4. Which chairman appointed himself manager of Division 3 Brentford in 1998 and got them promoted at the first time of asking. So he made himself the manager. He was fed up with his managers. He made himself manager of Brentford in 1998, and he got them promoted. What a chairman. Who was that? And question number five, which former Cardiff City chairman in 2001 had a clause inserted in the contract of a new signing stating that on signing he must eat sheep's testicles? He must eat sheep's testicles. The signing was Spencer Pryor, and to get the contract, he had to eat sheep's testicles. Who was the Cardiff City manager? So that's all the questions for the chairman stroke owners round. And we'll go through the answers very shortly for rounds 7 and 8. See how you're getting on. Just give yourself a minute there to get everything shipshape. Can you repeat the last question of the chairman owners round? Says Caroline Smith. I can. Which former Cardiff City chairman in 2001 had a clause inserted in the contract of a new signing stating that on signing he must eat sheep's testicles? So the Cardiff City chairman in 2001 is what you're looking for there. And Robin Cutler wants question 2 again, and that is the American football one. Arsenal's Stan Kroenke owns an American football team. Who is that team? Okie doke. Let's go through the answers. Should we go through the answers? Might as well. Rounds 7 and 8. Round 7 was the questions inspired by Half Man Half Biscuit. The record EFL Trophy final attendance of 85,000 plus was Portsmouth and Southampton. That was last year's final. Portsmouth against Southampton got over 85,000 at Wembley. The only player not involved in the 21-man brawl between Manchester United and Arsenal in 1990 was David Seaman. The co-commentator, pundit, hang on a minute, Portsmouth and Sunderland. What did I say? Did I say Southampton? Sorry, Portsmouth and Sunderland for question number 1. Portsmouth, Sunderland, apologies. It's been a long night. Portsmouth versus Sunderland is the answer to that question. Apologies there. Terrible quiz hosting for question number 1. Right, we did David Seaman. That is right. It wasn't John Lukic or any other Arsenal goalie. Question number 3, Kevin Keegan. Kevin Keegan was the co-commentator that Brian Moore put on the spot for David Batty. Question number 4, Uruguay is where futsal originated. Uruguay. And question number 5, Mickey Mellon. Mickey Mellon is the manager of Tranmere Rovers. I will accept Mellon, obviously. Right, round number 8, chairman and owners. The longest serving Premier League chairman is Daniel Levy. 2001, he joined Tottenham. The LA Rams are the American football team that Stan Kroenke owns. Doug Ellis was chairman of Aston Villa for 31 years. 31 years. There are players in this quiz who aren't even 31 years old. Ron Nodes appointed himself Brentford manager. And Sam Hammam was the crackpot Cardiff City chairman in terms of the clauses he was inserting into contracts. He wasn't crackpot in normal life, although he did have some eccentricities, it must be said. Right, so there you go. So after 8 rounds, the leading hero of Waterloo was Chris Ivey and his son with 23 points, and Flan had 18 points at the back, so it was quite tightly congested. Marcus Hawkins, yes, Sunderland, you are right, Marcus. Portsmouth and Sunderland, my bad. Question 4, answer again from Graham. Question 4, in which round, Graham? The Alehouse futsal round. The answer is Uruguay, and the Division 3 chairman of Brentford was Ron Nodes. How are you doing? Oh, great scores coming in. Steve Phillips, 22 out of 40. Rob Goodcliffe with his team of 3, 22 out of 40. Dave Marland, 21 out of 40. Aid Sanders, 23. And Andy Adamson with 24. Doing your dad proud, Andy. Loads of scores coming in. Mark Feehan, 16, and Chris on 20. Decent. The Daydream Believers Collective, big Barnsley fans, 27 out of 30. Stuart Silvers, flying the flag for Sheffield Wednesday with 30. Amazing. David and Caris Owen with 20 out of 40. Dave Tandy, Swindon fan, 16. Stephen McCairns, 21 out of 40. The West Ham blog with 31. Great scores coming in. Caroline Smith, a terrible last round, 15 out of 40. 15's fine, Kaz, don't worry about that. Richie Gillam, brilliant score, 27 out of 40. Okay, cool. So what we'll do is we'll do round 9 and then we'll go through the scores again to build the tension towards the finish. And round number 9 is football fanzines. Right, first question. Question number 1. The Brighton fanzine, And Smith Must Score. It was called And Smith Must Score, refers to a famous miss in the 1983 FA Cup final by Brighton striker Smith. What was his first name? Who was the Brighton striker called Smith? Just want his first name. Brighton United tied at 2-2, and he missed a big opportunity. Right, question number 2. Complete the title of this Wolves fanzine. A load of. You probably all know the answer to that. Question number 3. Touching on music here, Pete Doherty of the Libertines set up a fanzine about which club? Pete Doherty of the Libertines set up a fanzine about which club? I can offer a clue. I can name the fanzine here, but it might give it away. Depending on what the messages are like, I'll do that. If no one's got any idea, I'll give you a clue. Pete Doherty of the Libertines, but if someone thinks they knows that and says, don't give a clue, I won't. Question number 4, Rub of the Greens. Rub of the Greens is a fanzine dedicated to which team? Steve Phillips says, do not give a clue for the Pete Doherty fanzine, so I won't. So Rub of the Greens is a fanzine dedicated to which team? Stuart Silvers wants to know if the answer to question 2 is A Load of Floyd Street. No, it's not. Caroline wants help. She's a massive music fan as well, Kaz. Glastonbury regular. You should know this. Rob Goodcliffe says no clue. So, and West Ham blog says no clue, and so does Tom Dell. So we're not giving a clue to the Pete Doherty fanzine. And question number 5. Middlesbrough have a famous fanzine named after a popular Frank Sinatra song. So more music in this round. Middlesbrough have a fanzine named after a popular Frank Sinatra song. What is the name of that song or the Middlesbrough fanzine? James Sapwell says that Kaz should know that when it comes to the Libertines and Pete Doherty. Graham Elliott wants to know, question 4, that was Rub of the Greens. Rub of the Greens is a fanzine dedicated to which club? Which team? So I'll give you another quick minute because this is the penultimate round. So we'll do the scores at the end of this round and the answers, obviously. So you've got a few moments to work through that. So the fanzine round, here's your answers. The Brighton fanzine, entitled "And Smith Must Score," refers to Gordon Smith, very big in Scottish football these days. Gordon Smith used to head up the SFA or some sort of administrative body in Scottish football. Although somebody from the league team did point out when we did this quiz a week ago, that it was a very good save by Gary Bailey, the Manchester United keeper. And I agree. I think if we'd have had more camera angles back in 1983, Gary Bailey would have got a lot more credit than he did on the day for that save. And then Man United went on and won the replay 4-0. Question number 2, the Wolves fanzine is called "A Load of Ball," in homage to the greatest centre forward the world has ever seen. Question number 3, Pete Doherty of the Libertines set up a fanzine called "Come On You R's" about Queen's Park Rangers. Question number 4, Rub of the Greens is a fanzine about Plymouth Argyle. And the Middlesbrough fanzine, which shares its name with a Frank Sinatra song, is "Fly Me to the Moon, Fly Me to the Moon." So, how are you scoring? 9 rounds. And last week, we had 6 out of the 8 players locked on 24 points each. So it was a low-scoring quiz, a really, really low-scoring quiz. And 6 of the 8 players were in the lead with 24 points. If you are 24 points and above, you are flying. Steve Phillips is flying on 25, so he's 2-0, and you tucked it up on 30 out of 40. Paul Berry, 30 out of 45. Brilliant. Adrian Sanders, 27. Dave and Karis Owen, 23. These are brilliant, brilliant scores. Rob Goodcliffe with 5 out of 5 on that ride. Rob Goodcliffe, rather. Brilliant, Rob. James Sapwell, 21 out of 45 for this pair of legends. These are brilliant scores. Whizzing through. 35 out of 45 for the Boris Boys Collective. Chunder, 27 out of 45. Brilliant, Chunder. Good scoring. Right, here we go. So this is the final round. And to win it, you need to get 3 outs to win it. To beat the Heroes, if you're on 24 points, loads of you are way above that anyway, you need to get 3 in the final round. But loads of you already got a winning score. 27 out of 45. 27 out of 50 won last week's quiz. So here we are. Caroline Smith did get the Pete Doherty team in the end, though. Well done, Caroline. Right, here we go. The last round, the final round of quiz number 5 is goalkeepers. Goalkeepers. Question number 1, who was Wales's goalkeeper at Euro 2016? Who was Wales's goalkeeper at Euro 2016? Question number 2, who was the Spurs goalkeeper when they won their last major trophy? Who was the Spurs goalkeeper when they won their last major trophy? You're scoring really well, everyone, so I'm not going to give you a clue. There was a clue on offer for that in terms of when they won their last major trophy, but I'm not going to give it you because everyone is scoring well. It wasn't Vasily Rats, Steve. There we are. We can rule one keeper out straight away. Question number 3. Peter Shilton is England's most capped ever goalkeeper. In fact, his most capped ever player on 125 caps. Name the 2 goalkeepers in joint second on 75. So Peter Shilton has 125 caps for England. Behind him are 2 goalkeepers on 75 caps. Can you name them both, please? I think that's quite hard. I think you'll do well to get that. I think this is going to be a low-scoring final round. Question number 4. And one for the oldies, I'm afraid. So for all the kids playing, apologies again. Who was the Manchester City goalkeeper who had the ball headed out of his hands by Nottingham Forest's Gary Crosby back in 1990? And he was headed out of his hands. Crosby flicked it out of his hands and then tapped the ball in the net, and the goal stood, and Forest won that game 1-0. Hugely, hugely controversial goal. Who was that Manchester City? He basically stood there waiting to kick the ball out of his hands, and Gary Crosby ran round the back of him, headed it out of his hand and scored. Very controversial. Iconic goal in pre-Premier League days. Stewie Silvers wants question number 2 again. Who was the Spurs keeper when they won their last major trophy? Who was the Spurs keeper when they won their last major trophy? And question number 5. Who is Bournemouth's current first choice goalkeeper? There's one for the kids there. Who is Bournemouth's first choice goalkeeper? Surname's fine. Surname is fine. So I'll give you a few moments to digest those questions, see what you come up with. And we'll go through the answers. 27, if you get 27 or more, you're a winning participant. But you're all winners just for playing, because it's great to have so many people involved. Steve says it was a disastrous round. Steve, it was a disastrous round when we played this a week ago. Certain players got none out of 5. So I'm sorry to finish on a low. Marcus Hawkins asks, is the League Cup a major trophy? Yes, it is. I know you're an Arsenal fan, Marcus, and you have bigger fish to fry than the League Cup, but it is a major trophy. There are only 3 major trophies in the UK, and that is one of them. Sorry, in England. Sure, Scotland's trophies are very big too. Right, let's give you the answers for the goalkeepers round. The Euro 2016 goalkeeper for Wales was Wayne Hennessy. The Spurs keeper in goal when they won the last major trophy was in goal in 2008 when they did indeed win the League Cup, and that was Paul Robinson. Behind Peter Shilton on 75 caps each are David Seaman and Joe Hart. Gordon Banks is just 2 away on 73. I'm tempted to give you a point if you just get just one of those, but everyone's scoring really well, so let's keep it real, and you need to get both Seaman and Hart there. The Audi Cup is not a major trophy, West Ham blog. Right, the Manchester City goalkeeper had the ball headed out of his hands is Andy Dibble, who I think is now goalkeeping coach for he used to work under Warnock, so I think he was probably last seen at Cardiff City. And question number 5, the current first choice keeper for Bournemouth is Aaron Ramsdale. So let me know, how did you get on, everyone? 27 and above is a winning score, but participating is winning, because it's great to have everyone involved. We've got a core audience here who come on every week, and I really appreciate that, because it's great reading all your messages. Neil McDonough says, didn't Dibble save for Luton at Wembley? He did. Andy Dibble was man of the match for Luton at Wembley in 1988. Great knowledge, Neil, when Luton won the League Cup. 19 out of 50 for Graham Elliott. Good scoring, mate. Joe Parker, 30 out of 40 for James Kent and the £1 million drop. James Kent, for those of you who haven't played for a couple of weeks, went on the £1 million drop and did not win a single penny. Regular player in this, 28 out of 50 for Andy Adamson, who is a big winner, as is Paul Berry on 33. Great scores coming in. 37 out of 50 for Steve Saul. Brilliant stuff. Crawford and his son Scott on 32. Dave Tandy, 20. Great scores. Mark Fee on 22 and Chris on 25. Great scoring. Robin Cutler with his collective on 34 and Matt Dobson on 31. Brilliant scores. Rob Goodliff, 28 out of 50. That would have won our Sunday League teams quiz, and he only got 1 out of 5 in the last round. So big winner there, Rob. Well done. Jason Darby, Chunder, the NHS worker, big Bristol Rovers fan, 30 out of 50. Huge score. And Rob Harris with his collective, 39. Brilliant. Kaz and Tommy got 19 out of 50. That's a good score. And Kaz says she should have done more train station research. Yep, possibly, but that's still a good score. Thanks everyone for playing. That's brilliant. So where are we at? We've slightly overrun this week. It's taken about an hour and a quarter. Thanks everyone for playing. Loved reading your messages, and brilliant that you keep returning for more quizzes. We're going to be back next week with episode number 6. So really, really good that you've got involved this week. We're going to be back definitely next week with episode 6. And unfortunately, I've already done episode 7 for the heroes next week as well. So we're going to be on for at least 2 more weeks until they release us from this lockdown. So thanks again for playing. Have a good night, have a good week, and we'll see you soon.